Welcome to another episode of Distory, and sadly, our last of the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad series, which has been an epic diatribe on all things mining and stamp mill. So if you're into those kind of things, I'm glad that you're here for the final iteration as we finish Disneyland Paris's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. With me, as always, is the amazing, well-read, soon to be in Orlando, Florida, Kate the Disney Cicerone. Kate, how are we doing this evening?
Hi. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I can't believe how long this series has been. It's been 6 months of Big Thunder Mountain.
To get out of town, has it really?
January 13th is when we started, so almost exactly 6 months, yeah.
We've spent 6 months in Big Thunder.
Yeah.
We need to, can we get like a gold nugget from this? Like, can we get something? We
should.
I'll get, you know what? I'll splurge. I'll get us the Tiana's gold coins. And,
yes.
You know,
I'm all about it. I can't wait. So pop quiz for you.
Oh God.
How many pages of notes do you think I took for this 6 month long series?
Oh my gosh, for you? Each episode's probably at least 10 to 20-ish. Oh, God.
That's generous.
That's generous? Really?
That's a little over, yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking that you used 40 size font, so that's my fault. I know all the tricks.
Take a guess.
125 pages.
No way. 124 is what.
Ah! He got it. That's crazy.
Crazy. Oh,
that's insane. Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable.
I can't believe you almost guessed that.
At this point, can't you just turn this into a book? I feel like this is a book.
I have that for the Jungle Cruise too. I probably could make a book about either of them.
I feel like you should make a book about either of them or both of them.
Well, I have lots of time to write this summer, so maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call.
Yeah. So 20 episodes, 6 months, 124 pages of notes. I'm not going to ask how many pages of notes you have because you have scribbled notes on various things.
This is how many pages, kids. And for those that are listening, I held a big 0 in front of my eyeball. And it's not that I don't take notes. I do. I have them in notepads and all this stuff. It's I am the most, it's all over the place. It's lots of Post-it notes. It's lots of notepads. I'm so I can't stand using word processing things that are too advanced. I just use Notepad. I just love it because it's so simple. It runs all the time. You don't need craziness. You just need to get the text out. I'm a simple man.
No, I live on Google Docs, but that's just me. But yeah, so this is.
Yeah, but you're a writer, bro.
I am. It's true. So that being said, let's actually dive into this episode. We have a few things to revisit before we actually hop on the ride. Because if you remember at the end of the last episode, we went all the way through the queue, heard some really crazy stories about some of the antiques in the queue from Pat Burke. But now we're about to get on the ride. But before we do, we're going to go back to go forward like we always do.
Yeah, well, that's the only way to revisit the past is to go backwards.
So, Kirk, I heard you made a lot of big promises about lunch tins for miners at the end of the last episode.
You don't need to say it like that because then it puts a lot of pressure on me and whatnot. But yeah,
well, I want to hear what it is that you researched for that.
Okay, so at the very once you get to the reason why we're even talking about this is if you remember from our previous episode, we had gone completely through the entire queue. We are at the load station right now, and you can notice on the shelves in the load station are various tins, and it reminds me of either tiffins or any of these style of old school lunch boxes. And I did find a couple of different brands. They have National is a brand of metal tins. They also have, this is another one. They're all, what I think is really cool is if you don't think eBay is a good resource for historically finding antiques, it's pretty awesome. But this shows just how they look in terms of nesting, because this is the exact style that they have in that Big Thunder queue. So it opens up. It has a cap on the top, which you could put a beverage if you wanted, or you could store anything that couldn't get wet. And this was one from Cream City Wear in Milwaukee was this style. Yeah. So this style one. Now, the big question, which everyone really cares about, and by everyone I mean me, is what are these guys eating when you're down in a coal mine? So I actually
know that. That's
yeah.
interesting.
So here are I have two things, and I meant gold mine. I actually did research on coal mines too because I found a really fun story, and I just want to share it anyway. So tough. You're dealing with gold and you're dealing with coal. We're going deep into the mine today. So for daily rations, typically a gold miner would get a ration of flour, bacon, lard, dried beans, and dried fruit. And in fact, they despised dried fruit because typically people would turn some of this flour and lard and dried fruit into like little makeshift apple pies. And the gold miners hated them, but it was what they had. So it was like, but it wasn't what they remembered from back east, you know, because remember in the American gold rush, everyone went towards the west, mainly towards California area. They did have some local game, bear, rabbit, some birds. They would bake their own bread. They also used acorn meal. And then this is where it gets gross, is they would occasionally eat things like grasshoppers and other insects for protein if things were scarce, especially inside the mine.
Man, yeah, no thanks. I'm good.
But then, of course, you have staples like rice, molasses, chocolate would occasionally go down there, but that was mainly for if you were successful at gold mining, and that was typically not brought into the mine because it would typically have issues of like melting due to flame and exhausts and lots of machinery and things. And then
they had like straight up lard that they would put in there. Like a spoonful of lard?
No. It was that they usually would use the lard with flour to make biscuits. So that was typical, or like sense. A hardtack kind of thing. But the lard was, or they would use it to like fry things up, like make like fry breads and simple things.
I was going to say, like just spoonfuls of lard.
No. And in fact, I was confused about this because like beans are a part of it, and we'll talk about beans a little bit later because there's a giant pot that's actually on the ride, and I have this whole entire thing about beans, and I don't want to get there yet. Okay. But of course, cowboy coffee and other things like whiskey could be also brought down into the mines. But one of the things that was really popular with people who were extremely wealthy from finding gold was the Hangtown Fry. And I immediately thought that the Hangtown Fry would be some sort of like crisp bread, or not like, just like some sort of quick bread that was done simply and easily. Nope. This is the most fancy thing in the world. Okay. So in the early days of California, there was a town that originally was called Old Dry Diggins. And it got renamed to Hangtown due to the recent hanging of 3 desperados over a large oak tree on Main Street. Oh. But a prospector rushed into the saloon of the El Dorado Hotel, announcing that right then and there he had struck it rich, and he has to celebrate. So he unties his little leather satchel filled with gold nuggets and throws them, strewing them across the bar. Bartender goes, "All right, I'll cook you up the finest and most expensive thing we have, but let me see what we have to work with." So the bartender goes, asks the cook, "What's the most expensive stuff that we have?" And the cook says, "We have eggs, bacon, and oysters." The eggs are expensive because they have to be carefully packed and brought over a rough road from over the coast. The bacon has to come from a ship that goes round the horn from back east. And the fresh oysters we have to bring up each day on ice from the cold waters of the San Francisco Bay. So take your choice. I can cook you any of those things, but it'll cost you more than just a pinch of that gold dust. I'll actually need to see some nuggets. And the prospector goes, "Scramble me up the whole mess of eggs and oysters, throw in some bacon, and serve it up. I'm starving. I've lived on nothing more than canned beans since I've gotten to California, and at least I can now afford a good meal." So this Hangtown Fry has become a thing where you mix, it's like basically an omelet of eggs, oysters, and bacon. So if you've made it,
it's still a thing that they make places?
Oh yeah. If you type in Hangtown Fry, there's like all these different recipes that you can find online, and it's more famous in California, in like a very specific region. But it's like I've even seen on some menus they did like a brioche burger Hangtown Fry. But yeah, pretty interesting.
I've
but
never
like
heard of that. Interesting.
If you want to seem wealthy, Eat bacon, eggs, and oysters now in your breakfast, and then you'll be a fancy pants.
Wow, interesting. What a cool story. I love that.
Yeah, there you go. Hangtown Fry.
Did you have something else you wanted to add about their lunches or beans or something? You had something.
No, I wanna hold off on the beans,
Okay.
but I did want to say one thing about. I want to talk about coal miners for a second, and this is mainly in the UK, but I just thought this was so crazy. Coal miners in the UK, or pitmen as they were called, would eat something that's called a minus ham sandwich.
It's a sandwich without ham?
Yes. It was a jam sandwich wrapped in brown paper, and it was stuffed in these exact same national style, all metal canister lunch pails, because they use the exact same thing in the UK as they were using over here stateside. And it was preferred because it tasted delicious, because with so much coal dust around, meat and cheese didn't really taste good because of the coal dust, but the jam was really bright and fresh. And like you could really taste the flavors down in the mine. And coincidentally, rats did not like jam. They preferred cheese and meat. So they typically would make these minus ham sandwiches. The other thing is they would make their own white bread at home, because if they bought white bread, it used plaster in the white bread. So it was healthier to make their own bread at home. Yeah. To make white bread in large manufacturing, they would use like plaster of Paris in the dough for white bread to make it whiter and brighter. Basically chalk they were adding to the bread.
What would the FDA say about that these days?
There's no FDA. It was the UK, and it was the 1800s. They didn't care. So they typically would use jam, but on the crusts of the bread would be dusted with all the coal dust, because they would be like eating their sandwiches. So they would basically like pull apart the crust and eat the insides, and they would have this coal. Right. Your kids are coal miners. And then they would feed their coal mine dusted crusts to freshwater shrimp that were living in the pits of the coal mine.
What? What?
This is my life. I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole, but here I am in a coal pit in the UK eating a minus ham sandwich.
And feeding it to shrimp.
to freshwater shrimp. I know it's ludicrous. I could not tell you that story. I had to.
Yeah, you couldn't make that up. Like, there's no amount of imagination I would have to have assumed that would be a thing.
We usually do minus ham and peanut butter sandwiches for when we're in our coal mine.
There's peanut butter, but that would attract rats, right? So
yeah, they love peanut butter. You can. Yeah, they hate jam though. Now you know.
Yeah. To keep your food safe from rats. Just keep out.
Well, you know what, dude? This is crazy. Think about this for just a second. How come when the mouse is running around in Alice in Wonderland, they run and they grab the jam and they put the jam on its nose and it makes it calm down? If they wrote cheese on it or meat on it, it would freak out because it would get so excited, or peanut butter. So maybe the jam has a significance there. It's British. It's jam. It's noses.
All right, well, let's keep moving on this series, because we got to wrap up this series tonight. We got exciting things to do next week, so we got to move on. So I did do a little bit of research about the stove that was sitting there in the load area, because you know how I like my ranges and stuff.
We all have our things.
And your cowboy coffee is here. I feel like this is a good combination of the two of us here. They're cowboy coffee and a good stove. So
it's time for the percolator.
So I did look this up and I could not find the exact brand, and I was so disappointed with myself. I looked for a really long time, but I believe it's a Monitor stove. I believe it's a Monitor stove from the Monitor Stove Range Company from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I did find a picture of the old factory where they made it. I'm pretty sure that's where that one comes from, but that's all the information I could find, and I was actually really sad about that. So that's all I got.
Hey, that's further than anybody else in the entire planet has ever gotten. So
it's true. I did find some pictures of the Roundhouse in Disneyland Paris, which is kind of neat.
That's cool.
Yeah, they have little doors on each place, and they said they do bring them all in at night to keep them safe and it's the weather too.
Well, I was going to say, what is interesting about Big Thunder is it's exposed to elements, and I've actually seen some of the point of view videos online where there's snow everywhere. It's really wild to see people riding Big Thunder with snow on the ground.
When it rains a lot there too. Like when we went there, it actually did snow when we were in Disneyland Paris, not this last time, but when Elliot and I went the first time back in 2006, it actually did snow while we were there, which was really magical. So yeah, they have to protect a lot of things from the weather. So there's the roundhouse, but then I found this other little thing that I don't think we'll actually see while we're on the ride. And I'm not really sure where it is. But there's this little tiny ore cart that's going into this mine that's called the Baby Doe Mine. And I was like, what is that?
Yo, Baby Doe, what up?
So I couldn't find exactly what Baby Doe is referencing, but
It means tiny door. It's the Baby Doe.
Baby Doe.
It's a tiny door, dude.
But I think it's referencing a concept that never actually came to pass in Disneyland Paris, which was, you know how we have Big Thunder? Well, there was going to be the Little Thunder mine. And so that's what this concept art is that I've been finding everywhere. I don't know if you've run into this, Kirk, as we've been searching for things. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen that once, but it was a long time ago.
So it actually, if you look real close in the center there, it says Little Thunder Mine on the sign.
Oh.
And so this is actually like a kiddie coaster version of Big Thunder. And it has like all little features, including the rainbow caverns.
I like that it has the rainbow caverns. Yeah. That's so cool.
So this was just an unbuilt attraction. So I wonder if the little Baby Doe thing is supposed to be kind of referencing that lost attraction that they never put in. That's my guess, but I don't know for sure. That's just
every time I see a tiny door, I am now referring it to as a baby doe.
A baby doe. It's a little baby doe.
When you go to Winnie the Pooh, outside the House of Sanders is a baby doe. There's also a baby doe right by Gaston's to the right-hand side. I don't know what it's for or why it's there. It's a very big mystery that I've not thought about recently until now.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Do you know that door?
There? No. I want to see it.
Oh my gosh, I have to show you the baby doe.
The baby doe. The only other thing I have here... No, I have two things. I lied. But one of the things is I found on one of these wagons that's in the queue, it does say Pat Burke's name on it, which I don't think we said last week. So just throwing that out there. And then I found a really interesting quote from Tony Baxter that is a theory at Imagineering that I kind of knew about, but didn't know that they had a name for it. So this is a theory called eliminating contradictions. And it's when there's something that sticks out in like a ride or attraction that doesn't belong in that area, you lose the story. So they want to try to eliminate contradictions, right? So the concept at work here in Big Thunder is because the train looks like it's organically moving around the mountain as it needs to navigate the rock, versus if you think of someplace like, I don't know, Six Flags or something like that, where it's just like the coaster's out there and like you can see the whole thing and there's no mystery about where it's going to go next and all those kinds of things. But for this, you know, because you don't see all the spaghetti tracks and everything when you look at it, you see a mountain and every once in a while the train will like pop out of it, right? So that keeps you in the story that you're actually on a runaway mine train and a mountain versus not. So, I mean, it's something that we already kind of knew, like the idea of keeping the story intact and whatnot. But the idea that it has a name of eliminating contradictions, that was something new that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, that's cool. Because he specifically in that interview talks about how most places, if they did incorporate a mountain, it looks like the mountain is molded around the train versus the train existing secondary. So like the mountain was first, then secondary. And you actually notice that when we're doing the point of view, and I recommend everybody to look up any point of view video of Disneyland Paris on YouTube, just so you get a concept of what it looks like beyond what we're showing. There are these like stepped patterns to it on, especially like the building, like their little mine town area specifically looks like it doesn't look like it belongs there. Like they had to put it there because it was the flattest area that made sense, but it doesn't feel like it should be there.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting theory, but that's all I've got. Other than that, I'm ready to get on the ride if you are.
I'm ready. I love it. That's good. Right. I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, so this, of course, is the crown jewel of all the Big Thunders in the world, according to Tony Baxter, who is the original creator of Big Thunder-ish. I say because it's kind of partially
Mark Davis.
Yeah, partially Mark Davis, which we've talked about at length, so we won't get into that. But let's start in the station. And do you have a POV of this? You're going to pull up?
Yeah. I got one. POV. POV. Let me get the POV ready. POV activate.
So we're starting in the station. We've already kind of talked about everything that's here, so I think we should just punch it, Chewie, and go forward. Let's do it.
All right. Oh, this one you're not riding solo, though. I'm right here.
So, all right. So the first thing we see immediately upon leaving the station is there are a few things to the left side. There's actually some ore carts, some gear, a toolbox up on the ledge, and just some big gears and things like that. And also that machinery that you see behind it that was part of the queue as well. I don't have anything specific to say about these. We already talked about work carts a lot, so I'm ready to move on.
And we had already seen the additional machining that was earlier for Steam. So
after that, we dive into the pitch black for a while.
It's interesting that there's literally no light in here.
Right?
I mean, we're going underneath the rivers of America and nothing.
You want to hear something crazy? Is I've actually walked through that tunnel because I was evacuated from that.
No way.
Our first year. So I didn't get to go all the way on the ride the first time I was there because we were evacuated, but I don't have pictures of it because it was 2006. So, but okay. So I have some thoughts before we get into this area here about the actual tunnel itself. You're right. There's no lights. It's pitch black. So that's different than all the other versions of Big Thunder that we've seen because they all have like lamps or bats or something that illuminates the space a little bit, but this one really is pitch black. So Tony Baxter said they had an ulterior motive to putting Big Thunder Mountain on the island that they did. Remember, because we're starting on the mainland, we're diving in the pitch black, going under the water and up onto the island in the middle of the rivers of the far west. So he said, I knew that one of our weakest points on the ride in California is the ending because we have to save a little bit of the energy to get you out of the station and back down to the beginning of the ride. So unlike the first and second thrill portion, they go all the way to the bottom. So he says on the final one, you have to stay a little bit above the bottom so that when we launch the next car, it has somewhere to go before it picks up. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the end. But he said, but by putting out on the island, we could dive all the way down under the river, both going out, and then at the end, we add this terrific thrill getting out from a very high point all the way down, where we hit the fastest speed, I think, of any Disney coaster anywhere in the world. And I might be wrong on that, but I believe it is. And it's pitch black, and it's turned Big Thunder over here in Paris into a favorite ride in this park. So he's talking about how transporting it underneath, it's like, not only is it kind of like setting the scene, you know, it's like, it's going to be the most thrilling because suddenly you're pitch black. It's like Space Mountain, but even darker. You don't know what's happening. It's very disorienting, and it's setting you up for this thrill of a lifetime of the best version of Big Thunder, which I think is really cool. So
it reminds me also of like Disney has always used light as a transition point, right? So like example, when you go through Magic Kingdom, and you're seeing the coming attractions as movie posters in that little area. It's like the theater curtains are opening up as you enter into Main Street USA, or even the transition between Fantasyland and Liberty Square. There is a dark overhead, which is Columbia Harbor House is actually above you connecting to Memento Mori. That's like another transition period. So like this like mentally sets people up for... You don't know what's going to happen, so that's like exciting and thrilling. And then boom, they hit you right afterwards with bats, which are kind of scary, which people like to be like safe scared.
Yeah, they do. And Walt Disney even said that too. But it's that's all kind of the cinematic crossfade or fade in, fade out, you know, kind of idea that they made Disneyland with back in the beginning when they were all filmmakers making everything. And I love that they just continued to carry that through. That tradition of those cinematic elements all the way through to here. So let's talk about the bats a little bit. Do you want to talk about them?
The only thing I know is, because I can't really tell, do they have any ones that are prosthetic, rubber, actually hanging, or is it mainly just lights? Because it looks mainly lights.
They do later in the attraction, but they don't here. So this is lights. I did see a note that there's sounds of bats swooping above that you can hear, but not necessarily see. I don't remember though, and I haven't really like heard it on any video, so I'm not sure. But there's bats, eyes glowing. They're different colors. Some of them are green, some of them are yellow. And there's even some tucked back into the other area near where there's pools of water too, which is kind of interesting because that's different than all the other versions as well.
Yeah, the bats end, and then you start seeing the pools of water.
Right. And there's some mining equipment here as well, kind of like the Florida version. Looks very similar to it. I didn't know if you made any notes about that, but to me it just looked similar.
I just noted that I can't believe they let miners on this thing, but that's all I wrote.
Had to throw that in there, didn't you?
You're the one who set me up, dude. It's too easy.
That's true. So they have these rainbow-colored pools of water that, of course, are that nod to the Rainbow Caverns from Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland. This color effect was imported from the California version in the 2015-2016 refurb. So that wasn't always there, but it is there now. That was just an enhancement, a plussing, if you will, of that. At the top, there is a waterfall that parts around the track, which has not been working in the U.S. parks for a long time, but it still is over in Paris because I just saw that this past summer. But it's only on during the warmer months, from what I hear. They turn it off when it gets cold out so people don't get wet.
On this one, everyone's wearing jackets, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So then the trains pop out of the tunnel, they leave the lift hill, they drop around a left-hand turn, and they pass through a small cave and then make that big U-turn, just like all the other versions. Of course, there's no washed out anything here because we don't like the Magic Kingdom version because that's not the storytelling. There is a whole bunch of cacti, kind of like Tokyo. It reminds me mostly of Tokyo, if I had to compare it to one. But I wonder if some of this cacti is not real, because you remember how Tony Baxter told us that they take the cacti and the succulents and stuff like out when it's cold. And obviously that video is them wearing coats and stuff. So I wonder if these are fake cacti.
I don't know, because the desert gets surprisingly cold in Nevada and whatnot. Like they get really, really crazy winters. So
But they don't like rain. It's like if they have too much rain, they die.
Which is weird because Paris gets so much rain. Like that's one thing in that interview he also talks about is like it's hard to make a desert climate a frontierland because anything that can grow will grow and it'll be green everywhere. So we have to like manicure to remove life rather than maintain.
Yeah, very interesting.
So the big one that's directly in the center, that is the that saguaro cactus, and then and then there's the mountain ball cactuses are the ones that are in the lower left, directly closest to the train that Kate's showing.
Yeah. So there's another third kind there too. I don't know if you looked up what those ones are.
Where?
See the ones behind the saguaro? You see the little kind of like spindly ones?
Spindly ones. Spindly ones could be the hedgehog cactus, the tricola, or the organ pipe cactus. So there you go.
Organ pipe. It might be organ pipe. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't see a mask next to it, so there was no phantom. He's in the manor, though, so that's a deep cut for any Broadway fans.
Or for the popcorn turner that's in Disneyland.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. I love that. That's a great... I love that video.
Yeah, there used to be, just to very briefly, there used to be a Phantom of the Opera that used to haunt Main Street USA and Disneyland way back in the day, in the 60s, and he would like pop out and do jump scares and stuff. And so that's what the little popcorn turner is that's near the Haunted Mansion. That is the Phantom of the Opera.
It's you know why they probably also put him there? I'm just thinking of it now. I have to look back to look at the dates, but Not Scary Farm was the first scary event anywhere. And you know how they used to like cross-reference and use a lot of similar ideas? I'm sure they were toying with something based on that. So
yeah, it could be, for sure. So at this point here, if the trains are being dispatched on time, like in a timely manner, when the train goes through this curve that's coming up, it will appear to make a near miss with the train in the 540-degree helix. So that obviously is, they're not being timed, but it's like they're supposed to kind of like, one's supposed to be going over while the other one's supposed to be going under, if the trains are being timed properly, which I don't think I've ever seen in any POV. So I don't think that happens very often.
You know, it does happen in Walt Disney World almost all the time. After we make that turn, you almost always see the train above you.
Yeah, you know,
ours is timed really good.
That's true.
But they do have sensors in that one where if they do get kicked off and they're about like 45 to 50 seconds late, it can e-stop the whole ride if their sensors are off because they're worried that somebody's on the tracks.
Right.
Can I talk about the possums in the opossum tree?
Yes, you may.
And how this is an abomination and is completely fake and false? I would have never
Tell me
thought.
how you really feel, Kirk.
We've been looking at this tree and just going, oh yeah, of course they hang by their tails all the time.
Yeah.
No, they don't. I had no idea. Did you know that?
That they don't, or that they do? Like
that they don't. So
they don't hang by their tails?
Nope, y'all.
If
First
Mark
of all,
Davis was there, they'd hang by their tails.
Well, obviously because it's like fun and cutesy. Look, this is like an actual opossum using its prehensile tail. First of all, adorable. Absolutely adorable. But they use them mainly for climbing. They don't really hang. There's a big myth that they sleep upside down too. All right, ready? You want a little possum knowledge?
Yes.
Let's play possum. Okay. Possums have an unusual behavior, but spending long periods hanging on their tails or sleeping while hanging on their tails isn't something they normally do. It's a common misconception. However, they're commonly portrayed like this in cartoons. Opossums have that long hairless tail. It looks a lot like a rat tail, but it's not strong enough to support especially adult opossums' weight. Younger ones can for a moment or two, but it's not longer than a handful of minutes, and they never, ever sleep hanging upside down on their tails. Still,
but
what?
Do they go around a branch when a train goes by with their tail?
Well, I mean, I'm sure if there was a train going by, that this would be the look that you would get. Be like, what is that thing doing? What's wrong with that train? You know?
Sorry, I interrupted you. Please continue.
No, you're okay. You're okay. While their tails may not live up to the hype, another unusual behavior that they play in is true, which is that they play dead or playing possum. And it's a defense mechanism that they use against potential predators like fox or, in this case, probably coyotes, because we do see a coyote canyon later on. So sometimes they'll flop on the ground, close their eyes, or stare off into the distance as if they are dead. However, playing dead isn't just an act. They actually have the ability to go into a catatonic state and appear dead for up to 6 hours long. So they can actually kind of like suspend their, just like their ability to... I couldn't imagine for 6 hours. So it is well known, and typically it's the younger possums that do this more commonly, and older ones will run away from predators. But there you go. Possums do not hang from their tails. They instead just use them to climb like little cutesy pootsies.
So. Interesting. Well, we've learned a little something today, haven't we?
Well, dude, we've gone past an opossum tree how many times? And this is the first time where I'm going to go, liars!
This is the fourth time? The fourth time. The fourth tree. Yeah.
It only took us 4 times to get it right. But hey, the same thing with Tony. Just call us the Tony Baxter of opossum facts.
That's right. All right, so moving on. We make a little slight hop before making a left-hand turn onto a trestle at this point.
Trestle bridge.
And then the train is then going to run along the rivers of the far west across the water from Phantom Manor. This is actually one of my absolute favorite parts of this ride right here.
Now, hang on. Let's pause here, and I just want to point out, again, remember, we have all this rock work, and you'll notice they have to put very strong support beams of different lengths because the rock is uneven so that this building could even sit on this mountainous area. So again, it's creating that authentic mining community rather than a roller coaster that has a mountain built around it.
And, so this is called Mill Landing, this little scene here. So that's the name of that. And it's one of the most photographed scenes in the park by Disneyland Paris guests. This is a really fun place to watch the train because what it does is it goes down into this dip and it looks like it's actually dipping into the rivers of the far west. And the water sprays up like crazy. Like I got wet, like Splash Mountain wet on this. It's not like, obviously in the one you're showing there, it's probably way less because it's wintertime. And I think they do turn it down so that it's not quite as dramatic in the winter too, because people don't want to get super wet. You can see that the view of Phantom Manor is fantastic from that spot as well. And then this place is also a tribute to, of course, Walt's original mountain, the Matterhorn, right? That's why this effect was added to all of the big thunders that we have seen is because of Tony Baxter wanted to honor Walt Disney's first mountain, and what the Matterhorn does at the end is it dips down into the water and it splashes. So this is like the most dramatic one of all of them. So I feel like it's the biggest tribute to Walt Disney in that way.
It is very cool. It looks awesome. It's spectacular to see.
And I have kind of some notes on the things that you can find on the mill landing. On the left
There's quite
side.
a few objects too.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about things that you found?
Well, obviously you have ore carts that are hoisting ore. Then you have, there is oil barrels. There are axe barrels and boxes. There are dynamite boxes and crates. There's also antlers, which we had seen before. What else do you got?
I found, there's a ladder. I found a plunger that's kind of near this area. Because I know you love plungers.
Oh, the plunger's later on. Dude, you know what's so funny? As soon as you said that, my brain was like a toilet? I'm like, what are you talking about? They had outhouses, lady. But no. The plunger...
Is this a lunch tin that's on this box? Do you see it?
I think that's for liquids, not for
some sort of
solids.
tin. Yeah.
But yeah. But I did see that plunger. You have to go... So actually, this building right here is called the powder room. Yeah. Or the powder storage is what it says. And then, so powder storage is right here. You could see just a crate of open explosives. And then there is our plunger right there, which
that's a different
bothers.
Plunger.
Yeah, but it bothers Kate and I that there is no plunger. There's plungers in the queue for Big Thunder Walt Disney World, but there is no plunger on the actual ride, which I know is a small thing.
Wait. Back up.
What?
There's one that's by the cast members where you're loading.
Yeah, but that's the station and queue. That's not on the ride.
Okay, fair.
Technicality, but true.
It's still there.
Yeah. We agreed that there's actually two. There's another one outside as well, but still not on the actual physical ride. So what's making all the detonation happen? That's what I'm saying.
That's right. It's all coming back to me now. That was 3 months ago. So... all right. Is there anything else you want to talk about this area before we keep going?
Nope.
Okay. Alrighty. So the trains then go around a left-hand turn, and then they're going to hit the base of the second lift hill, which there's lots and lots of stuff in this area. So we gotta creep our way through this a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the right first, what do we have there, Kirk?
Yeehaw. We've got some little burros or donkeys who are braying, which is so cute. Like the animation of these is awesome. Like the tail moves, the ears move, the mouth moves, and then even the head swivels as well. It's just fantastic.
Which is funny because you go by it so fast. I don't even think I knew that those were there until I started watching POVs. I was like, oh look, there's two donkeys.
Well, to be honest, you're making that swinging left hand that your head isn't really looking to the right because of centripetal force pushing you more towards, it's pushing to the outside, but you have a tendency to look left with the turn. So most people are probably looking at the building and the town because they were already looking at Mill Landing. They weren't affixing their gaze because it was a bank turn to the left. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't think that's normal, but yet these are some of the best parts of this whole entire area.
I know. It goes by so fast. There's no way you're going to get all this unless you ride it again and again, or you watch a POV that all the stuff is there. So these buildings here are called Upper Mill Building and Head Frame, which we'll see a little bit later as we creep up this hill. But as they start going up the hill, we see the two donkeys. Then on the left, we see this cabin. Do we think this is a bathhouse? Because I feel like it's a bathhouse.
Hang on. You got to back it up.
What?
You gotta back it up, lady. Do you want to talk about what you're going to talk about? I don't want to ruin your train of thought.
No.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Train of thought.
But that actually was pun not intended, but a good one. Do you know what this little tool is? We've never seen this on an episode of Distory yet.
No. What is it?
Yeah. It is it's a post hole digger. So used to, and I actually found, because this is exciting stuff to me. I actually found the company that sells them. So welcome to this is actually a little bit of a later ad for it, but thank you so much. This is a August 1929 for the Ewin Brothers of South Bend, Indiana, who made this specific post hole digger.
Wow.
Which I think is pretty fantastic. The improvements of farms require good fencing, and it leads to the sale of other hardware. So don't neglect fencing and the good Ewin post hole augers and diggers. Which, by the way, I couldn't find an auger on here, but in my post hole digging tool research, I was shocked at the fact that
what are we doing here?
Augers aren't mentioned more because they use augers a lot for making holes. Like we talk about augers into the rock to be able to drill in for dynamite sticks, but never once did we see a major auger like this little guy right here. The one that we saw, the post hole digger, was this one on the left. But I thought it was weird because like augers are totally a thing. There was actually a whole entire article that I read that was like how augers built the California gold rush. I was like,
wow,
I should really send this to Kate. This is like light reading for her.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I want to read that. Well, what's interesting is that there doesn't seem to be any fences near there. You know, I'm looking at all the pictures and like there's not a single fence to be found. So what are they using? Is it like a fence that's going to be there?
I guess. Well, I mean, think about this for like a half second, right? These are beasts of burden / livestock. You don't want them running off onto the train tracks. There are the tracks right there, so they should put a fence.
It's in the works. They just haven't gotten there yet. They're going to build a fence for those donkeys. Wow, that's interesting.
Isn't that weird that I took that one frame of this one dumb part and was like, what is that? Wait a second.
Fascinating, though.
If you want to get even geekier, we could watch a guy use one. Look, here he goes.
When do we don't want to go geeky? Like, that's what we do.
Hit it, dude. Look at him go. Look at him go. Look at that thing. Man, I wonder how much dirt he's going to pull up. Let's see the reveal. That's a good amount of dirt. I'm very happy about this. This is very satisfying.
Nope. Wow. That's great. Thanks for stopping me. I appreciated that. Is there anything else there you found?
No.
I love it. Okay. Yeah. All right. Can we go on to the cabin that I think might be a bathhouse?
Sure. Let's go to the bathhouse.
To me, it looks like I couldn't find anything to substantiate that. I don't know if you think the same thing, but it looks like to me within the door of this cabin, there's a lot of things here. So it's going to take us a minute to go through this all. But throughout the door of the cabin, you see there's like a chair with some clothes on it. And from another... It
does say private too.
Yeah.
So.
And like keep out. And there's a curtain, you know? So it's like trying to...
And there is right after that is the goat chewing on the long underwear, making you think that maybe they're hanging up their laundry, you know, right afterwards.
Exactly.
Because they would repurpose any of that bath water probably because water is scarce. Do you know what I mean? To utilize.
Yeah. So I feel like that probably is a bathhouse is what we're looking at here. So there's a private C sign. There's a private sign. There's a keep out sign. There's skull and antlers over the door. I did find some really interesting things about antlers in that.
Explain.
Well, because they were also on the roof of the like trading post in Frontierland and Disneyland. And I was like, why are there so many antlers everywhere? Well, that was because in the Old West, people would place antlers on general stores to signify that you could buy supplies there for illiterate people. So just like we have, you know, remember across the water in Phantom Manor, they have the, you know, things for the apothecary. They have things for the, you know, the barbershop pole. We talked about that before, how people who are illiterate wouldn't be able to read barbershop. So they had the pole put up there so they could know that that was where the barbershop was. So this is the same kind of thing. It signifies to people who are, you know, can't read that this is the place they can go get supplies. That's what it is.
That's weird. I found a conflicting article that said that they hired Gaston because he uses antlers in all of his decorating.
That's the only reason. It's just Gaston. Just forget everything I said.
We are in France. It makes sense.
It's true. It's true. Can't argue with that.
Yep.
So there's just all kinds of stuff here. I have notes about not only the antlers, there's a couple barrels. There's one that says a barrel of whiskey. There's a crate that says nails on it. There's some cutting instruments. Did you see the saw, Kirk? I got so excited for you when I saw the saw.
Oh my gosh, what kind of teeth does it have?
I saw the saw. Here, let me see if I can get a good one. So this is there's a saw on the left side of the door. It's
a 2-man.
It's a 2-man
Nice.
saw.
That's for big logs. Like, we gotta, it's going down. I'm yelling timber.
And then on the right side, there's some scissors. So there's some cutting implements here. And then there's another...
And there's another saw.
Yeah. There's another saw away on the other side as well.
I love it. And some shears. Maybe you got to get a haircut in there.
Right. I'm thinking
there's also
some grooming going on.
Oh, hang on. Can you go back to that picture? What is right directly to the right and above the scissors is actually a coyote or wolf trap. So not to be confused with a bear trap. Bear traps typically are larger, and there is a bear trap that shows up just after this scene, or like a middle transition period of this scene. Yeah. So that is actually for smaller doggos.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. There's also one of your lamps there, the tubular lamps hanging out, and then there's a
totally tubular.
There's a bin, like a wash pan or something that's hanging above it as well. So maybe more of that storytelling of getting cleaned up. But so then just past this, like you mentioned, there is the bear traps that are on top of the box, another crate there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they're a lot larger, and bear traps typically are just like, I know because I looked up a bunch of bear traps, which is ridiculous. But big part is larger engaged teeth that you can see in the one that is closer in the foreground. And then they typically will not have a elongated metal bar on the both sides like the wolf ones, because you post them down and like hammer them in. So
then right next to them, somewhere, I'm trying to figure out where my picture is. There's like, I think we looked at these before. They're like calipers. Do you see them on top?
Yeah. They're actually for picking up large logs. So rather than like wrapping your arms around it. And they could use this with a pulley system if they wanted to, or you could obviously hook it around and attach a rope and like haul it yourself as well.
Which would make sense why there's rope sitting near it then for that. Yeah,
it's more than likely they're going to use this with a pulley system, because there's lots of pulleys in all of these little scenes.
Well, then do you see right below that, the crate that they're sitting on? It says...
I did research, my friend. I know all about it.
All right, well, tell us.
All right, there's great. First of all, an amazing pun. It says "rainer shine," and then they're called tarpaulins. Now, you're probably going like, "What do you mean? What's a tarpaulin?" Great question, said nobody. I had to look up what the difference between a tarp and a tarpaulin is, and it all comes down to material. So the biggest difference between tarps and tarpaulins, a tarp is a piece of material used especially for protecting exposed objects or areas, where a tarpaulin is a fabric made of canvas or similar material coated with tar, wax, paint, or some other waterproof substance. So tarps were typically lighter and not coated, where a tarpaulin is heavier and often made of canvas or thick material that has been weather treated.
So the funny part about this is it's a joke, because it says, on the other side, it says, "Caution, do not get wet." But the contents of the box
These are tarpaulins.
As a tarpaulin, which would protect.
That's a double joke, because you got rain or shine, and then I didn't notice. That is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! It literally, I couldn't see that part, because where I took the screenshot, it just said "caution." I couldn't see the "do not
it says, "Caution,
get wet."
Do not get wet.
Oh my god, that's amazing. That is hysterical.
Like, who in the world is getting that joke? Zero. Nobody's getting that joke. But us.
Maybe if you're lucky, you're getting rain or shine. Maybe.
Yeah, it was hard to read, even just kind of like.
Listen, whoever designed that crate, who's an Imagineering.
Oh yeah, hold on. Well done.
We love you for it.
There's also a pickaxe and a whole bunch of just tools in general on this. I didn't go over every tiny little one, which is shocking, but they're just like, they're more like place setting tools versus storytelling ones.
Yeah, there's a funnel. There's lots of different pliers. So yeah.
We do see the goat. So this is the goat we get here. We don't have a goat that eats dynamite, but we do have a goat that eats clothing. So he is eating what looks like some long underwear, is what it appears to be for me. But and that's it. Interestingly enough, he has a bell around his neck. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah. I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean, he must be a pet or whatever, or he belongs to somebody versus he's a freewheeling goat.
Oh, dude, I know who he belongs to. John, because those are his long johns.
But yeah, so he has a bell around his neck, and then somewhere I saw it said that he had an empty water pail in front of him, which I don't see in this picture, but somebody said that he did, and I was like, remember how we're kind of looking for water in this attraction, because water, and especially with the tarpaulin box there, that's another pun that has to do with water as well.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
I'm not. So I'm wondering if it used to be there and maybe it was removed.
Yeah, maybe.
So that's an interesting thing there. But the other thing that's on the clothesline besides a pair of socks is a red handkerchief, which, remember, we said this is probably going to be a thing in each attraction because of the order of the red handkerchief, which came in with the mine train. Well, the Rainbow Caverns mine train all the way back in the beginning in Frontierland and Disneyland. And that was basically their secret club, so to speak. Not really secret, but it was a club that was made up of employees, later cast members of that attraction, and then slowly it grew to pretty much anybody on that side of the park was able to join the Order of the Red Handkerchief. So that was way back in our very first episode, I think, in this series, but now we've seen it show up in virtually every single version of Big Thunder because I think of that connection.
Yep.
So yeah,
I love that.
I love that it's there. Yeah. All right, so we ready to go to the Upper Mill building, which is the next one? Do you want to talk about what we find there?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the beans. Let's spill the beans.
It's time. It's bean time. Okay.
It's bean time. So buckle up, kids. So one of the things that I had talked about earlier is that baked beans were a part of the staple diet of those that worked in a gold mine. Well, I didn't realize how much they either loved or detested beans, but I was able to track down this is an homage to the Yankee beans. so this is somebody who is clearly from like the Boston area who moved out west in hopes of getting rich. So this is from the storytelling perspective of a homesick Yankee whose ode to his favorite dish was published in 1829 in the Farming Journal, as well as had been quoted in the Baltimore Weekly Messenger.
Baltimore. Okay.
Baked beans. Oh, how my heart sighs for my own native land where potatoes and squashes and cucumbers grow, where cheer and good welcome are always at hand, and custards and pumpkin pies smoke in a row, where pudding and visage of hunger serenes, and what is far better, the pot of baked beans. Let Maryland boast of her dainties profuse, her large watermelons and cantaloupes fine, her turtles and oysters, and terrapin stews, and soft crab high zested with brandy and wine. Oh, neither my heart from my native land weans, where smokes on the table the pot of baked beans. The pot of baked beans, with what pleasure I view it, well seasoned, well porked by some rosy-faced dame, and when the glowing hot oven she drew it, well crisped and well browned to the tables it came. Oh, give me my country, the land of my teens, of the plum Indian pudding and pot of baked beans. The pot of baked beans, the muse is too frail. It tastes too descent of its virtues to tale. But look at the sons of New England so hale, and her daughters so rosy, 'twill teach thee full well. Like me, it will teach thee to sigh for the means of health and of rapture, the pot of baked beans. Signed, a Yankee. So yeah, this was a homesick gold miner in 1829.
Really loved his beans.
Yeah, Yankee baked beans. Big fan of them.
Was it the rosy-faced woman gal who brought them to him?
I'm pretty sure, there's a lot of watermelon language, and it's definitely not hiding itself in the 1829s.
Wow, that's something. Mm-hmm. You have to wonder if did somebody dare him to write that, or was he just what's the inspiration behind this poem?
It's obviously sarcasm that he hates eating baked beans all the time, or at least that's what I gather from it, is that he's missing and homesick for all the actual good foods he enjoys, and he's constantly eating beans.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I know a poem. Do you want to hear it? Beans, the
I
magical...
know, stop. I knew you were going to go there. Stop.
Anyway.
Oh, gosh.
This is a mature podcast.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so it's interesting that you did schedule. That. Because that pot doesn't have beans in it. It has laundry.
No, I know. It's a washboard. But isn't it fun? Here's the thing, though. Tell me that wasn't used for probably both.
Yeah, probably multi-purpose for sure.
Because that's a standalone.
Out in the river water.
Yeah. There's no way that they're not utilizing that because it has a spit and everything. So.
Yeah, so definitely a steaming pot of not beans, laundry. But it's interesting to me, the view between the two buildings is this vista of Phantom Manor, and of course we've got the Molly Brown I think going by here at the same time, but that was not an accident that you see this gorgeous view of Phantom Manor in between the two buildings,
Yeah. And again, it's what I love about Frontierland so much is that Frontierland here in Disneyland Paris is connecting all of the stories together. It's very funny to me, though, because it appears that most guests don't make the connection between Big Thunder Mountain and Phantom Manor effectively. Because I had a friend who just recently went there and was like, I liked the Haunted Mansion until I got to this weird ghost town mining thing. And I was like, what? I was like, have you not paid attention to Distory? He's like,
yeah.
I don't know, dude. It was just weird. And I was like, it's not weird. It's literally the best one. And he goes, well, now that I know the story, it's better. Yeah. I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I would have thought, especially the way the stretching room is placed, it tells a great story that connects the two attractions together. I don't know. But it might be lost on guests.
Though. You remember when Kevin Lively was talking to us about waiters, swimmers, and divers. Yeah, so maybe they were more of a waiter than a swimmer or a diver. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're no longer friends. That's basically how that ended, our relationship.
Just want to mention that I have some new emotes over here on my side for my subs, and they're loving the one that says the ram trick is not a thing. So, just saying.
First of all, I don't know about you, but there's a T-shirt that literally says the ram trick was established on September 23rd, 1980. How would this be not a thing if there wasn't an established T-shirt date? It's a T-shirt, Kate.
T-shirt.
Who made the T-shirt?
You did.
That's not here or there. The Rams made it themselves.
Now it's making me very happy that everybody's using it. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, great. Well, listen, I hope you enjoy the haterade you're sipping on there, Miss Kate.
Now they're using the OK Kirk one, so it's great.
Dude, what is this? I need it. How come all of your subscriber emotes are like... I'm getting blind bashed over here. That's funny.
I have some Distory
like
specific
that.
ones. So,
yeah,
all right, let's move on a little bit further down the line. We're headed towards the winch tower, and there's a whole bunch of machinery.
What did you call me? I don't even live in a tower.
The winch tower. Yeah.
Anyway.
So the winch tower here has a couple of things to it. We have that wonderful... Did you look up exactly what this is? Tell me.
Let's go with steam tractor.
steam tractor, I was like, steam tractor seemed like it to me. It's hard to say. I also saw traction engine. I saw a portable engine. Ooh, one of those things.
But all three of those things are accurate if you change the wheels. Like that's 100% true. Like all of these things, like you can use all three of those machining for those three purposes.
Yeah. And I think that the front of this one is a little bit unique than other ones we've seen because it's more of an oval shape. But the rest of it's pretty similar to all the other kinds of steam engines that we've seen in this series.
Man, that's a really nice steam engine. I would really like to buy that steam engine. That might be the finest steam engine I've ever seen. Oh, okay. Well, I'll sell you for a good price. Walt Disney Imagineering. What the heck, dude? Kate, I think you need to make a shirt. Nobody will buy it except for me. And it'll just say, man, that's a really fine stamp mill. And it just says Pat Burke on it.
Oh, my gosh.
I just put like a stamp mill on the back.
Yeah, I need to make that.
Literally, no one will get that shirt except for everyone listening to this podcast right now. That's it. This is a very niche audience.
It's okay. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So the other things we see here is there's definitely a machine that is turning a wheel that is physically turning. You see that's supposed to be the same storytelling that we see very clearly in Disneyland, specifically in Anaheim, that this is pulling your train up the hill. You know, that's what the storytelling is with that. But it's like way bigger of a machine than the one in Disneyland for sure. And there's a lot of steam too. I don't know if you saw in the one that you're at, Kirk, but all of this machinery has steam coming out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Makes it so much more alive.
So I had no idea that a lot of this changed due to seasonality and weather. So I think that's why I'm missing out on some of these water or steam effects.
Yeah. So
I would have never even thought to change or look without this podcast.
Right. Exactly. Other things that are around there is a tin oil can and there's a toolbox. There's a whole bunch of tools. There's lots of gears on the right side of the winch tower. And there were some new sound effects added to this area in the 2015-2016 refurb. So they got a little plussing and had some more sound effects there. And that's
what are the sound effects?
That. I think it's just machines working. So sounds.
So what do they sound like?
I don't know. She gave it a creak. That's all I got.
I like it. That's good. I could tell that was a traction engine.
At this point, you're going up the hill. You're seeing the view of to the right of the mountain peak, which you see. Something that's really different about this one is you see a lot of these striations in the rocks that you don't see quite as emphasized, I think, in the other versions. They're still there, but they're different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, these are so uniform too to tell you the passage of time and the different minerality content or water that was used to kind of shape and form. I think it's kind of interesting and cool that if you've never been over to Wilderness Lodge, they use the Grand Canyon as this. Well, didn't you actually like that exact same lodge that they based it off of? Is that where you got married?
No,
it's where somebody got married.
I did get married in a lodge, but it was up at Timberline, so it's where The Shining was filmed. So
it's a little bit different.
Different lodge.
I mean, there was an axe there, so kind of romantic.
No, but I did go to Yellowstone. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, because I remember we specifically were looking at the striations that are around the fireplace of Wilderness Lodge, and it has a similar construct, and it's supposed to mirror that specific Grand Canyon-esque lodge, and these kind of Vista Buttes remind me of that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I have for that, unless you have anything else. Keep on rolling.
Keep rolling.
So here at the top, well, go back, inch back. This is where the goat with the dynamite would be, or the rams if you were in Walt Disney World, and there is none of them. Nothing.
Yeah, why is that? I was trying to figure out if these birds were supposed to be up there. I just think they're birds.
Yeah, I think they're actually... No, I don't think that they're... I think they're real birds.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look for... I don't think I have a picture of it. Yeah, I think those are just real birds. But Yeah, there's no animals there. There's some moss on the rocks because it's just, everything tries to go green there. But it's so interesting to me that they didn't put any sort of animals there at all.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because almost all the other ones have a focal point.
Yeah. So at this point, the trains drop around a left-hand turn, and then they cross back under Lift Hill, and they come out of the drop, and the track goes over another rise, and then they hit a magnetic trim brake. And this, when you start to see, you're already at the helix, I think, right? Mm-hmm. You're at the helix. So this is a 540-degree counterclockwise helix. So this is, remember, we have spiral butte in all the other versions. This is their spiral butte, which is really intense for 540 degrees. It's like goes on for a long time.
And this tends to be the most thrilling element of other Big Thunder Mountains, where they didn't want this to be the climax of this attraction, as Kate had talked about earlier with Tony Baxter.
Right. And so there is something on the left-hand side there, which Kirk kind of has as well, which is a washed out or like a trestle that has been broken. So this is kind of foreshadowing. You see some ore carts that are all kind of smashed or broken. You see some wheels, and you see some beams and whatnot that are all broken. So definitely foreshadowing for what is to come, to kind of give you a little bit of a sense of unease that maybe the structure you're on is not entirely safe. And also maybe from the earthquake that happened, it probably was from the earthquake that happened in the area, perhaps, as well. So exiting the helix, the trains pass through a short cave and then go over a quick airtime hill as they shoot down Coyote Canyon, which is, of course, a throwback to Disneyland's version because they had to put it there in order to hide Fantasyland from Big Thunder. But they do have, oh my gosh, what do you have? What is that?
It's a coyote, dude.
Oh, I have this one up here. I didn't know that one was there.
Yeah. There's a coyote here. And look, then the coyote that you're looking at is right there.
I missed that one on the right.
Well, can't see it all.
So then as the trains drop down through the tunnel, they then pass over a trim brake and a loud gust of wind is heard. It wasn't a very loud one. And the trains make a right-hand turn. They pause it here because we got to talk about this before we go in. So the trains make a right-hand turn into another trestle, which is then heading into the third lift hill. So at this point, this is going to be, there's a lot going on here, but the thing that you really have to see, and one of the things I'm most excited about, is if you look to the left, there's yet another Pat Burke crane right before you go into the tunnel.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Let me see if I can go back. I don't know if it shows it on this one.
So if you've been with us through this whole series,
yeah. Right
Pat
there,
Burke designed this specific crane for the Disneyland version. Well, the Walt Disney World version first, and then it ended up in the Disneyland version first because that one got built before Disney World.
That's crazy. Good eyes. Well, I know you were looking for this everywhere. Like, this is like your big thing. Sure.
But there's two of them here because there's another one in the ball mill landing as well. So there's like two cranes here. So that makes it the best, right? Because you get two instead of one. But then above the, before we go into this tunnel, there was actually something that was supposed to be here that isn't here. So when the park opened, there was an audio animatronic that was located at the entrance of the third lift hill before the dynamite explosion. So Pat Burke said, originally at the base of the mine on the right in the tunnel, we had a voice yelling, "Fire in the hole," with a light blast depicting a dynamite blast. But they didn't have the budget, I guess, for an animatronic figure. So he says there was no animatronic figure. Some other sources said there was an audio animatronic figure. I have never seen one, so I think that they didn't have budget for it. But he said the figure was too expensive and was never conceived except in voice. So whatever said there was one there. I have never seen evidence of it. So I think that that's probably the case, as it was just the voice, but never the actual animatronic. He said, I did propose doing a figure we had Disney sculptor Blaine Gibson do for the earlier Big Thunders. And it was of a prospector pulling his loaded mule off the track, loaded with barrels of blasting powder and crates of dynamite. The mule would finally sit up as the train approached with a big tug from the prospector on his reins. But because of cost and other issues, it was not completed as well. And so I love how he says, maybe for the fifth Big Thunder, I will bring it up. So there's essentially two audio animatronics that were supposed to be there that weren't. I think one was at a different location. I think the one with the prospector and the mule was in a different location, but this one was going to be a voice yelling "fire in the hole" and then a dynamite blast.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it's not there, obviously. Do you want to talk about the
now? You just have to scream it every time you go past there. You have to scream "fire in the hole."
Oh, Kirk, we have to do that now at the beginning of the first lift hill. We need to start.
Okay, so I'm not going to do it yet, but when we get the refurb for Big Thunder, it closes. It's going to get the dynamite finale. We will start adding that to our rides, but until then, we will enjoy the water while we have it.
You'll just have to do, can't believe they let minors on this ride. That'll be
I'll never stop doing that. That's never gonna stop. If they remove that mining kit, I'll just start smuggling in piece by piece the miner's hat, a safety lantern, a crate, and a pickaxe. I'll just have to get them through security.
One piece at a time, So we're going to enter in this tunnel. There's a whole bunch of signs that are obviously warning you. So danger, TNT, blast area, keep out explosions, all those kinds of things. And did you notice right as you go inside here, there's that we debated what this was, like a counterweight or a bucket or something. It's actually on the right-hand side instead of up above you. Did you see that? I
did. It's all the way on the right-hand side.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting that it's still there, but it's not featured.
Mm-hmm.
There is an ore chute or something above your head too that looks like it's not in operation.
Right. We also get dynamite in a crate on the left-hand side. We also get a 2-man saw, which we've had in other versions. There are smaller augers, which again, these are more for drilling pilot holes for dynamite to go into, shovels. There's also a sledgehammer for breaking up ore. There's a safety lantern on a shelf, and then there's something up above us which we've never seen before.
All right, talk about it. What do you got?
It's a wheelbarrow.
We have seen that before.
This one?
Not there, but we saw that same wheelbarrow is in Walt Disney World in the kind of near the exit. So when you're
is it in the front?
No, right before you're pulling in to the blacksmith shop, on the ride. If you look to the right in that area where there's kind of that blast that will happen.
The gears and that whole shack.
Yeah, there's one there. So
I never noticed that.
There's also one in Tokyo Disney too, that you can see from the queue. So I wonder if there's one in Disneyland. So that's what I'm going to look for next time I'm there, because I wonder if that's another thing that shows up in every version.
I don't know, because it brought me down the rabbit trail of wheelbarrows, because I'm like, wait a second, I don't remember wheelbarrows. But
Here, you talk about wheelbarrows. I'll see if I can go find it in the other versions.
Go for it. So wheelbarrows have been around forever. So we're thinking that it's probably a Greek invention from around 406 BC, and there are some versions of Chinese ones from around 100 BC as well. So it's kind of interesting that they've been around forever. But yeah, I had no idea. Wheelbarrows.
This is the one in Tokyo.
Okay. All right.
It's very, very similar. And then I'll see if I can find the one that's in Walt Disney World real quick.
That's crazy. This is the first time that it was large enough where it became a focal point.
I can't believe I found that so quickly.
Wow. Wow, dude. Holy cow. Yeah. There's got to be one in Disneyland then.
There has to be. I know. I don't know where it is though, so I'll have to look for it later. But
wheelbarrows.
Mm-hmm. Wheelbarrows. Who knew?
Huh.
Well, now you guys know. So you're welcome. Yeah. Cranes and wheelbarrows and red handkerchiefs.
You're welcome. I like how now you know.
Knowing is half the battle. All right.
That is true. We aren't ignorant here. We learn everything.
Did you see the Cowboy Coffee on the left side of that area going into this tunnel?
Now that you mention it, over there?
Yeah, we'll look up on the shelf, see?
Yeah, look.
They also have a lunch pail, I think, probably down below, and they've got the some woodworking tools as well for...
Yeah, it looks like a planing.
A planing, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then the dynamite and whatnot, which you already talked about. So now we're going to climb up the third lift hill, And here we see, just like in Disneyland, we see the red warning lights, which my understanding is all these effects were added from Disneyland. So they were imported from California to Disneyland Paris in those reverbs that we had. So we see a very similar effect with the dynamite that is being ignited and then the fuses that run along the sides and then explode at the end with the smoke and everything. Very, very similar to Disneyland in that way.
Can we talk about fuses?
Yes.
Let's do it. All right, so before the 1800s, the old method of igniting explosives was filling either a straw or a feather quill with black powder to prepare as an ignition system. And the main charge of black powder was then loaded into a borehole, and a long, slender metal rod was inserted into the explosive charge. So that's how they originally would make these. But then a key development happens just before this in 1831, William Bickford invented and this is why I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
You know I like safety lanterns. In 1831, William Bickford invented the safety fuse.
Oh, hey.
I know. The safety fuse would be in direct contact with black powder and cause it to ignite. The fuse was then prepackaged with set burn rates, allowing for very specific calculation and burn times based on the length. So in order to fire a blast, they would drill out a hole, and then they would put in the dynamite, and then they would, depending on the length or time that they needed. So in this instance, we would be using safety fuses. Now, let's go a little bit further. What does a safety fuse comprise of?
This is very timely for 4th of July.
Yeah, dude. Everyone here might have used safety fuses yesterday. So it was in the dead center was still black powder, and then there was fiber wrap, and then an outer coating, and then waterproofing. Typically, when these first came out, though, it was more just black powder inside of cordage. But that still allowed for, because it was very specific, the amount of powder that it gave to a specific light and ignition time. I also found, Bickford was loaded, by the way, from this. This revolutionized and made igniting so much safer. Like, imagine using a piece of straw or a feather quill, which is not that long. No. So igniting these things, you had to be very close.
Fast.
Right. So when safety fuses happened, they took off. They ignited a revolution in blasting operations. So Bickford Smith, original manufacturers and patents of safety fuses, volley firers, instantaneous fuses, lighters, etc. for all of your blasting operations, specifically prepared for any climate. And yes, this was a English company.
Yeah,
I did find an image of one of these older canisters, and this was 48 feet of safety fuse, number 11, which was the gauge of it, and to burn 90 plus seconds per 90 plus or minus 20 seconds per yard. So you got a minute and a half per yard, give or take 20 seconds.
Wow. Very accurate.
So I would err on the side of caution and use more rather than less.
But that's their advertising campaign, probably.
Yeah. Isn't that so cool?
Yeah. It's interesting all the different ways they're spelling it, too, because that said fuse, F-U-Z-E. We know a fuse is F-U-S-E.
Well, look at this one. F-U-S-E-E-S.
Fuses.
Fuses.
So interesting. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Apparently, Bickford's grandson, William Bickford Smith, also was able to buy Trevarno in 1874 from the proceeds of this fuse invention. If you don't know what Trevarno is, it is a massive, huge, gigantic mansion with peacock gardens. It's gorgeous. Yeah. There's a lot of money in fuses. Light it up, baby.
So as we climb up this third lift, I'm assuming you're done with fuse talk. Yeah, you're good.
Dude, what are you rushing me? Are you rushing me out of fuse talk? I might actually go another hour. I can vamp on this. Let's go. All right, fine. Fine,
No.
I guess a plus or minus 20 seconds. We're clearly minus 20 seconds.
I'm sorry. Are you done? I didn't mean to rush you.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
So I'm going to start over. So as we go up the lift hill, we do see something that's a little bit different here. Is there's like a beam that goes across the top where the fuse is wrapped around it. That's not something we see in the Disneyland version at all. There's also something that's on the wall here. Guess what I found, Kirk? Look what it is.
Safety lantern sticking on a sticking Tommy.
Mm-hmm. It's like all our dreams are coming true in the Paris.
It really is. I mean, I don't know what else I could want.
And it really looks like the flames dance too. You can't obviously tell from this, but that's actually a neat effect that looks like the flames are dancing as you go up there. And and then smoke is blasted into the guest's face as the train crests the lift, which is an effect that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Like, you'll see it. When all the versions that I took while I was there, I think we saw it like half the time. So that's the same as in Disneyland too. I know that there was the rumor was that there was like the sulfur smell was like making people anxious or something like that. So they
people thought the building was on fire.
Yeah.
So they took it away.
It's too realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, people.
Typical Disneylanders.
Oh no, you didn't.
Shots fired.
That's what they used to call cast members before they were cast members. They called them Disneylanders.
Mm.
So they had the Disneylander like newspaper. It was like the cast member newspaper. Anyway, are we ready to get out of the tunnel? Should we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I swear, I'm not trying to rush us. I'm just trying to be conscious of time. So the train then speeds up as it enters the return tunnel. There's a pulley system on the left of the entrance. So basically now we're going past this on this like trestle, past the water, and then into this tunnel that will then take us back underneath the water and go back to the mainland. That's what's happening here.
I have a question. As soon as you enter this, I couldn't see it, but I'm assuming as a guest, because you're turning in that direction, you'd be looking up and to the left. It looks like almost like an open shaft area on the left, like up here. Can you see another train? Is that like an exposed other train over here? Because it's hard to tell, but it went by so fast, and I just couldn't figure it out.
And you're going so fast, you wouldn't be able to see it. But I will mention before we get totally into the tunnel, you can see that other crane across the water from this.
All right, we spent enough time on the Pat Burke cranes. Let's wrap it up. Plus or minus 20. So we've kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but they accelerate through the dark until it pops the exit portal on the mainland. So the way that Tony Baxter talks about this, he says this solved the problem that they had in the other two American versions. But basically, if you've ever been on those coasters and you felt like the end was like the drop from the third lift was really short and a little bit disappointing. That's because they have to save that momentum to get you all the way into the load station. They didn't have that problem here, where you don't have to lose the thrill. So he said at Disneyland Paris, you don't have to compromise. You actually get one of the fastest coaster sequences. And so this was what Tony Baxter said was a correction of a mistake that they had made in the previous versions, to use his language. And so each drop gets more thrilling than the last. So the first one in Disneyland Paris is a splash, the splashdown. The second one is the spiral, right? And the third one is the tunnel that goes underneath. And it is really thrilling. Like, it is one of my favorite Disney coaster moments of all time, is that exit tunnel. Because you go all the way from the top and then you go all the way under the water. Like, it's really fast and it's really far, and you're just getting all this momentum, and it's dark and you're turning and you can't tell when it's going to end. And it's just really, really fun. They do have an additional lift chain there to assist the train leaving the tunnel. So there is kind of like an additional lift for the momentum that it needs to get to the station. But then the train then coasts past the station through the loading dock and then makes a left-hand turn to re-enter the station. And so Tony Baxter talks about this part of the ride specifically. He said, we have the load area for Big Thunder Mountain, and part of the fun there is the people that come by at the end of the ride have just gone through the fastest part of the experience. And so I love watching their faces when they come up out of the hole over there. So when they come up from under the water,
So there's a great place you can stand along the fence and get some really good views of people kind of being shocked by the light because they've been in this black hole down under the water speeding along at a real clip and then all of a sudden popped back up into the station. It's kind of fun. How did we get out there? How do we get back? Like, you know, like it seems kind of magical. Like, how did we have this whole adventure and then suddenly we're back here, right? So he said, well, I remember when we proposed it, said, how high are you going to have to build the track to get over the smokestacks to get out of there? And I said, we're not going over the smokestacks. We're going to go under the water. And then they were like, okay. So interesting that like they thought nobody had really considered going under the water, but that was like Tony Baxter's like, we're going to go under the water. We're going to make it happen. So kind of interesting.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Interesting concept. So, the other notes I have are mostly about the refurbs that happened in 2015, 2016. They did a lot of track work at that point. The brakes were overhauled, especially with, I guess, like the air compression and all the, like, they moved the canisters out from underneath the track to the side of the track to be able to access them more easily. Some of the scenery was repainted. They added some of those elements from the California version, which we've already talked about. They have some new sound effects, the new projection mapping that happened in the third lift hill. And they also said interactive games were installed in the queue at some point. Somewhere said that. And I was like, I haven't seen any interactive games in this queue. So I wonder if they might have mixed up.
Yeah, they might have mixed up Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. But Tony Baxter said that major reconstruct on this ride to bring it back and actually improve it from when they opened. That's what happened at that time in 2015. And he says, technologies are so refined now. We went in and did a lot of technological things, just like even to capture your photo, which used to be a big cumbersome thing. Because this one does have a photo, which we didn't talk about in the splashdown.
That's right by is that right? Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like you can see the camera box on the left-hand side of the splashdown.
Yeah.
And it flashes, too.
Mm-hmm. So they were able to get rid of all the big, ugly equipment that was in there, make it really look nice when the water splashes come up. So this camera technology got better. And then all the trees were replaced, so they were in scale with the mountain. Part of the illusion comes across because we scale down all the trees. If we put in full-size trees, you realize the mountain is just a little over 100 feet tall when we want you to think it's 1,000 feet tall or 300 meters or so. So they did that by changing out the plants and making it so it was in scale, essentially. So, and that's all I've got, Kirk. That's it.
All right, I got one more, and I feel like this is a good way to close. Okay, so after we pass the airmail and the carrier pigeons, there's a section that's just called tool storage.
Oh, yeah.
But afterwards, right before we're about to get off the ride, there's this great sign. And the sign says, and we've seen this sign before, in order of management, all employees subject to search. So you don't steal anything.
Don't take that gold
steal
dust with
nothing.
You.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I feel like we need to just take a few moments at the end of the series to acknowledge our journey because this really has been quite a long one, but it's such a good one. And I always feel at this point, I felt this way with Haunted Mansion. I felt this way with Jungle Cruise. I feel like it's like you're sad to leave, but you know, you're ready to like, let's go and explore some new things, but you're also a little sad to go because it's been like a place we've been living in and thinking about for a long time. I don't know if you feel that.
I feel that way, and I've also said this before, that I would love, out of all of the live-action remakes that Disney is really enjoying making, I would love to see this attraction come to life. You take the Disneyland Paris version with Phantom Manor, Barnabas T. Boyan, Melanie Ravenwood, and we create this awesome story that compartmentalizes but adds different elements of each Big Thunder and make it into a real Western. I'm sure it probably wouldn't pitch well or anything, and like people wouldn't recognize the story of Phantom Manor, so it would never happen. But in my world, that's the story that I want told on screen.
Yeah, me too. I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it would be kind of fun to end this series with maybe just revisiting some of our favorite takeaways from, because it was a long one and we talked about a lot of things in this series. I did ask our Pocket Fam Distorian community in our Discord server, on our Walrus Carp Discord server, what was some of their favorite moments. And, they gave me a little bit of feedback. Stella said the Apple Dumpling Gang was one of her favorites.
Stella, I'm glad you enjoyed that part.
Rhonda remembered the earthquake that used to happen at Big Thunder Mountain in Magic Kingdom, and also learning that the track of Big Thunder Mountain in Disneyland Paris actually goes under the water, which is really cool. And then also finally learning the ram trick works in Disneyland, but not in the Magic Kingdom. Thank you, Rhonda.
First of all, Rhonda, you're wrong. It would be a goat trick, so you're already wrong. Don't start with it. And the ram trick is a real thing. It's very fun. It's very thrilling. Try it. Maybe it's not on the right side. It's still a blast. Pun intended.
It just hurts your neck. It's not fun. It's not the same.
If
they move the ram to the other side, I will buy one of your shirts. Okay? That's how that's going to go.
I have a video that shows one Kate Grasso, Disney Cicerone, having a blast doing the ram trick. Having an absolute blasty.
I think that's because I was like getting slammed into Lem because I was looking in the wrong direction.
I know. That's what's fun about it. Now you're getting it.
It's not a thing, though. It can be fun, but not a thing.
Just because it's not a thing to you doesn't mean that it's not a thing to us.
Fine. Okay. I do have another one is from Kat, said, I loved learning about the Rainbow Caverns incorporated into the ride, and whilst it's fun to do the impossible quote, which was from the Rainbow Caverns.
I mean, I will say one big regret from this whole thing is that I've never gotten to experience the mine train through Nature's Wonderland. Everything about that. And I'm so glad that video became a big part of capturing and documenting the history of that.
Yeah. Because
before that, there really isn't a ton. And we really get to experience most of the ride with some really fun commentary. So it just makes me very nostalgic. And I'm so glad that a lot of listeners who are older who have been able to experience it can relive it. And then for us folks who didn't get to, we still get bits and pieces and elements through each iteration of Big Thunder, which is so great.
Yeah, I love that it's not forgotten entirely.
Yeah.
It just, and even is over there in Radiator Springs, right? With like the Rainbow Caverns at the end of the Radiator Springs Racers. So it's like it's gone beyond Big Thunder. It's, it's other places as well, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is, in terms of thematics and look, it was so pretty and magical, and it is timeless to me.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any other favorite moments, favorite things from this series? I know you've got Cowboy Coffee.
I think Cowboy Coffee needs to be made. I need to make Cowboy Coffee in Frontierland, and I'll just ask for a cup of hot water, and I'll just bring coffee with me, and we'll pour that sucker. We let it settle, and we drink some coffee.
Let's do it.
By Big Thunder. Why can't we do it? Let's do it. Or I'll bring a thermos in. I'll bring a whole thing of hot water. We'll be fine.
I really loved the Order of the Red Handkerchief. That was a big thing for me to see it tied into each version with a red handkerchief was really cool. Pat Burke's Crane, obviously, I'm not going to go on and on about that because I already did this episode. The Apple Dumpling Gang was big for me, and also I love all the tributes to Walt Disney, not only the splashes of water, but also lowering Big Thunder down 20 feet so that it wouldn't be higher than the Matterhorn. That was a really cool thing that I didn't know before this series. So.
I didn't have a love for lanterns before this series, and now I'm obsessed with looking at lanterns and style of lanterns at every attraction I go on. It actually thematically tells me what time period I'm in, which is a weird way to tell time, is by looking at light. But sticking Tommy knockers in mines,
all the time,
and safety lanterns and tubular lanterns. All of it is wagons. We did go deep into wagons, especially with, Disneyland having the wagon rides, which was wild. That was even a thing
wagon.
So cool.
Yeah. Wow, this series has been pretty amazing. I feel like I've learned ridiculous amounts of Big Thunder that I never would have noticed before had we not walked through it detail by detail. So,
well, it's weird to find things on other attractions. So when I found that steam engine inside of Tower of Terror, I flipped. And then anytime I find any kind of wood stove, I found one in Regal Eagle and immediately picture texted you.
So
like,
exciting.
That's not a normal thing. But from this entire series, I've grown to appreciate some details that always were wallpaper to me. And I think that's the beauty of doing a 6-month deep dive into an attraction or attractions that are all thematically similar, is it allows us to really, really appreciate the small, tiny details that typically you enjoyed the ride. And enjoying the ride is really the main function. But I don't know. Every single thing is placed for a purpose.
Is there a level deeper than waiters? Because I feel like that's what we are.
We're like free divers, like the ones that go like all the way to the bottom, Like where's the Marianas Trench of detailed ride historians? Because we're going to need a submersible for this.
It's true. But no, I feel like this has been, the other thing I love about these series is it's also creating a historic record of all this stuff,
Yeah. Again, we always said this about this podcast in general, and this is a little bit more meta, but we always said nobody can replicate this because, one, people don't want to replicate this. They'd rather just enjoy the ride, give tips and tricks and all that stuff. And I love all of that kind of content, so there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But this is a very specific way to look at attractions in a completely different avenue that bases ourselves in, obviously, historical research, my background in history and my degree, obviously your writing prowess and your research skills and content creation, like all kind of homogenizes into this really. We try to make it, that's the one thing that's always so interesting is we try to make it less dry,
Yeah.
So, because this is very heady stuff that can be very mundane, and we try to lighten it and make it a fun experience while being very specific and detailed.
Yeah, it's like we can laugh and learn. We don't have to choose one. we do. Both
we
of
will
those
only
things.
learn. No laughing in the next series.
Which is a good segue, because I have some people asking me, what is our next series?
It's a great question. It's a great question.
And I think what we typically do here is we have one long series per season, and then we do maybe some shorter series, but we also do some where I choose a topic one week and Kirk chooses it the next. We talked about what we want to do next. I know that we do need just a couple weeks off before we do any sort of series, just for our own kind of palate cleanser for us as historians. So next week we are going to do a debate for Pirates of the Caribbean, because Kirk and I don't agree on which one is
shocking.
The best
We
version.
don't agree.
So we're going to do a little bit of Disneyland versus Magic Kingdom Pirates of the Caribbean debate next week, which will be really fun and put in a historical context, of course, as well. So it'll be really fun.
Yeah, we know that our audience really enjoyed it when we did our Barker Bird debate with the Tiki Room Barker Bird versus the Pirates Barker Bird. So it's like still going to be Distory, where we bring up historical reference points to make our debate topic or side or opinion strong. But it's just really fun to also get like quirky on it. So
yeah, like we got really heated on that Michael Eisner one. that was a thing. We had to like dial it back.
Yeah, well, because you and I still will never agree. Well, actually, I think that's the thing, right? Like these debates, it's never really about convincing the other person, because Kate will never be on Team Eisner. Kate will never be on Team Pirate Parrot Barker Bird, and Kate will never be on Walt Disney World's Pirates being better. So like I like those lines in the sand, because then it allows us to really flesh out our side of the story, and it makes it fun.
Yeah, in a friendly way, because we still are friends. But at the end of the day,
we're not friends. This is actually an act, and we're pretty good at acting over 107 odd episodes. So we'll just keep on acting. I'm happy. This is great. Another Distory. Great. No, I mean, honestly, Kate and I look forward to this as much as you guys look forward to it every single week, and we're just so blessed that we actually have an opportunity in a long form to be able to convey as much or as little as we want on a specific topic. Because when we create our short form you're getting 90 seconds or less to really convey something, and it has to be very quick paced. And we wanted to have something that could be slower.
Yeah. So I think at that point, we might be ready to wrap up this series. Are you ready?
No. It's so sad, dude.
I know. We always get sad at the end of these ones.
I know, because they're just like, it's a relief in one way, and it's like I already miss it. Like, you know how like when you work like a really, really long shift or like a double, you're like, oh God, I want to go home. But like when you're getting in the groove of things, it's not as bad. You know, like it's kind of like if you would have told me, hey, Kirk, do you want to talk for 6 months about Big Thunder Mountain? That's such a major commitment. Yeah. But we don't look at it like that. We compartmentalize it on concept of each iteration and just kept going and going and going and going. So I think I can. It's
been fascinating to really like find all of these things that I don't think most people even know are there, so that's been really fun. And I think that we'll come back to it again like we did. Like we'll revisit Haunted Mansion, we'll revisit the Jungle Cruise.
Because there's always stuff that we miss or learn. People reach out to Kate all the time because she's a published author and well respected, so people reach out to her with like lots of information that we wouldn't normally get access to. So it's a great thing that people recognize that this podcast, it's given us some more opportunities to be able to uncover stories that have never been told, which I think is very exciting.
Yeah, and so then we get to share with you guys because it's not our history, it's everybody's history for this Disney stuff. So really, really grateful to get to do that.
It's not history. It's Distory.
Thank you. And also Kevin Lively is in the chat and says he reaches out to you too, which is true. He does.
Kevin does, but usually it's like tomfoolery stuff, which I appreciate, Kevin, because that's what my life revolves around.
He's been a really great resource for both of us for a lot of
things. Thanks, dude. Are you kidding me?
That.
It's like the greatest. Plus, I'm giving away a piece of Kevin's art for Cartmas in July. I got the backside of Hippo to give away to subscribers. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. When I bought the Piranha, I bought that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like it might be time to wrap this up and say goodbye to Big Thunder for now.
Well,
see you later to Big Thunder, I guess.
Let's pull this train into the station.
I'm actually a little sad you won't be saying that anymore.
We gotta find another one.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this entire Big Thunder series for Distory. It has been quite an amazing journey with Sticking Tommies and Tommy Knockers and Apple Dumpling Gang and Cowboy Coffee and Rams Tricks That Aren't a Thing. And we just really appreciate all of you guys being along for this incredible ride. And we look forward to whatever comes next. I'm sure there'll be a more big series in the future. But for now, Kirk, do you have any final words here as we wrap up?
We'll keep you entertained plus or minus 20 seconds.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. We really appreciate you guys being with us on this journey, and we will see you next time for Distory.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody.